Sunday to you. Sorry for wearing an almost green shirt, and I'll be phasing in and out of reality for the rest of the evening. Ha! Get down! That's a good choice on the tunes. Update on the eye. My eye's good. I got blood in the eye. Still have the blind spot there. No improvement yet, but I was told it may take upwards of a month, or it may not even heal at all. But it's okay. It's a very, very small spot. Will Carpenter be online by January 2021? Yeah. In fact, it'll probably be before then, but we're just playing it safe. Because when you're dealing with one group that is on the other side of the earth and it's a 12-hour time difference, and you have accountants and attorneys trying to talk, boy, it gets a little squirrely. So this is a live stream where I like to come on and do nothing, but it is purely user-generated what we talk about, meaning you ask questions, I provide answers. Sometimes I call that the open format, if you will. So I'll be tapping into everything that's going on over there in the live chat. Just feel free, whatever the case may be. A couple things I do want to make a note of. We doing a squirrely count today? I didn't know I said squirrely already. Did I have already said squirrely? My goodness. Number one, I'm fallible. I make mistakes. Just keep that in mind. When I'm talking up here, this is unscripted. This is stream of conscious. I just roll with it, and so sometimes I'm going to misspeak. It happens. I don't want to misspeak, but I do. Sometimes I'll think I'm talking about warm season grass, and I'll give a recommendation for cool season grass. Sometimes I think I'm talking about cool season grass, and I give a recommendation for warm season grass. Just understand, I am fallible. Double check everything I say because I do make mistakes. Outside of that, also, the way this goes is I normally start at the top of the chat, work my way down to the bottom of the chat, and that takes me a hot minute. I love the squirrel emojis. It takes me a hot minute, so if I do not answer your question right away, do not be alarmed. The way this ends up working is, number one, I'm on about a 30-second delay. That 30-second delay causes a little bit of a time gap. Then also, I start at the top and work my way to the bottom. So it may take me 10 minutes to answer question number 2. It may take me 10 minutes to answer question number 3. And then I don't get to question number 4 for 30 minutes. So bear with me. Now, if you do see me skip over your question in the chat, that just means, well, I made another mistake. I do that. Yow! Man, I always wanted to host a funk radio show. Thanks for tuning in on this Sunday evening. I'm your host, At the Grass Fight of Art. Everybody climb aboard the Soul Train. We're going to be taking around for a ride. Hang on, because it's going to get bumpy. Having too much fun over here. So, like I said, this is an open format, meaning you ask questions, I will provide answers. So let's go ahead and get this show on the road. Real quick, before I get going, let's do one of my favorite things. What was I doing? If we got the train going, we got to do a roll call, right? Let's do us a little roll call. Hang on. Number one in the chat is the man himself. That's right, he's a moderator. Mr. Aldo Beltran, our favorite chef, dishing out the hot meals, keeping us fed. Hi-yay! Of course, we had Izzy in here. Speaking of, we got 2 top-tier chefs right here slamming it at us. Izzy, Aldo, thank you for your service, good sir, and keeping us all a little bit healthier. And Of course, we had Trimec in here. Early question about rainwater and superiority to tap water. And J Farm. What's going on, J Farm? How are you, Mr. Farmer himself? Mr. Hensel, how are you? Telly, Chopper. Be careful. Look out above. Here he comes. He's landing on the top of your house. Kenny Cooper, how are you? Richard Nettles, A-Dog. What's up, big A-Ran? This is A-Ron, actually, for you. Daniel's in the house. Poro Oreo. I don't know if I said that right. Brandon Folk is here. What's up, my fellow scientists? Aaron Taylor, Green Dreams, RBL Jackson, Paul's Prime Cuts in the shows. What's up, Dennis Page? Mylon Jurek, TLF, the Lawn Forum, cool season. Taco Day should only be on a Tuesday. That sounds like something G-Man would say. George Popa, bringing up the age average just a little bit higher when he's in the room. Grace, Tim, Patrick, how are all y'all? Jason Traylor, Rick Young, Andy Kelly, Robert Butler, Barry Kavanaugh, Timmy Bluegrass. All right. Let's get the show on the road. I was having too much fun with the train and the funk music there. Okay, so let's see. The first question coming in is from XU Oreo. XH Oreo. I think I got that right. We'll do it like that. Oreo. Or is it XHP Oreo? That's probably more likely what it is. Is XHP one of your gaming guilds? It probably is, huh? It said, hey man, is there any point to putting down prodiamine in early November? Is it too cold by then for weeds? I live in Massachusetts, and this is when my grass would be 60 days after germination. To be honest, I don't know. No, it's not too cold. If you are above freezing, I'd say if you're over 40 degrees Fahrenheit, especially soil temperature wise, you're good. Go ahead and get it down. And that way, if you apply a post-emergent, your pre-emergent will keep things from coming back after you put down your post-emergent. You see how that works? So you can really time your pre-emergent whenever you want to do it, as long as it's safe to apply. And what I mean by safe is that you're above freezing. That's the one thing you're kind of looking for, is how far above freezing are you? And so anyway, as long as the ground is not frozen, then by all means have at it, get it down. And if you're worried, if you are overly concerned about the amount of weeds that came up before you get it down, put down your pre-emergent with a post-emergent, and that will help you out. So it should be a good, simple, easy thing to do there. I hear a lot about timing of fungicides, and if you get it down late, yes, that's technically late, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't put it down at all. Daniel said, can we discuss SOP versus potassium thiosulfate differences, which is better if you have alkaline soil, salt index, etc.? Okay, potassium thiosulfate is extremely high in salt index compared to SOP, and potassium thiosulfate is very, very alkaline to the point that it can actually burn turf. But the caveat is that potassium thiosulfate slowly acidifies the soil, because eventually that converts into sulfuric acid, like in the same way elemental sulfur does. So it can work out if you apply it with high enough water, or you get it watered in immediately. It can work out. So yeah, and that's why normally you'll kind of see a wide range of different rates applied on that material. You'll see everything from like 3 ounces 1,000 all the way up to 30 ounces 1,000, depending on where you're getting it. Are you getting an ag version? Are you getting a turf version? Or whatever the case may be. But again, salt index going to be burn potential due to the alkalinity of the product, plus the salt index is going to be closer to something like potassium chloride. So the water becomes more imperative with that product. Let's see here. Where was I? There was another one here. Matt, I just scalped, overseeded with perennial ryegrass, and slipped my Bermuda. How much water do you recommend? So I recommend just enough to get it up, right? I don't necessarily like going ham with it, and the way I normally establish it is pretty simple. I like 7 a.m., 11 a.m., 3 p.m., 7 p.m., and I'll normally run at 4, maybe 5 minutes, depending on if I have a 360-degree head that rotates 360 degrees or not. That kind of dictates how long I run that. I'm not going for a particular length of time, but for a particular amount of water, what I am going for, though, is to make sure that if I do have a 360-degree head, I'm getting at least one full rotation out of it. Any chance of distributing the ATL area as of right now? No talks about that. When's the squirreling merch coming? I don't know. I brought it up to my wife, and she says she's going to start working on it. What's your take on Ratio Thrive, which pitches application of microalgae for soil health? So I have read a lot about microalgae, and there may be some bit on the hormones, but as far as for soil health, you can really achieve what you're achieving from the algae from really any organic matter source, as long as that organic matter source has a nutrient load. So, you could do it with biosolids, you could do it with compost, you could do it with various manures. You kind of pick your flavor on that, and depending on which one you pick is actually going to have different nutrient densities too. So microalgae, I'll tell you, is not going to be very nutrient dense. You would have to apply a pretty significant amount of material to rival something similar to like a malorganite application or a biosolid application or whatever the case may be. So is it good for soil health? Yeah. Is it better than anything else that's out there? No, it's the same thing, just a different form of it. Now, where it may help you is that you might get some biostimulant-like effects due to hormone content, is possible, but also depending on your organic matter source, you may be dealing with also hormone content in there as well. It all depends on the manufacturing process and the source. So there you go. Your preference, liquid or granular fertilizer fungicide. So for fertilizer, it depends on what kind of program I'm running. If I'm running on a golf green, I'm clearly going to run primarily liquid with a few granular kicker applications. If I have 7 applications in the transition zone, then I'm without a doubt running granular. Because at the end of the day, when you're building out these types of programs, the simple thing you do is, you pick the turf type you're dealing with, you head over to Pace Turf, you download the climate appraisal form, you type in your weather data. The instructions are there on the Pace Turf website. You type in your weather data, and it will populate what your nutrient demand is going to be in your area. And then if you want to step it up a notch, you can actually put in your soil test, and that will help you develop what you need to be applying on a monthly basis. And if you can get that done in liquid, great. But chances are you're not going to be able to get that done in 7 applications in liquid, because the nutrient density in liquid is just not there unless you are incredibly upping your frequency of application. That's where it begins to unlock its potential there. So that's kind of my take on that. But as far as fungicide is concerned, never in a million years would I ever buy a granular fungicide and put it down. Never. And over in the Discord, there was a beautiful comment by Ryan DeMay about that, and I'm not going to copy and paste it here, but it had to do with sheepskin and feeling like things were supposed to make you feel comfortable, but in reality, it doesn't. You're just kind of going through the motions, and anyway, with granular fungicide, it is just not effective. You're missing out on a whole piece of it there that unfortunately is critical for the efficacy of a fungicide in general. Hey Matt, accidentally over-fertilized tall fescue, seeded some areas in water twice daily. I've got some fungus going on. It's mushy underneath the canopy, wilted, easy to rake out, melting out. It sounds like it. It could have been overseeded as well, meaning you applied too much seed. Rarely do I see over-fertilized tall fescue start to melt out unless you just straight up, smash it like 3-4x. So if you're putting down, I would say you could apply up to 2 pounds in and you're not going to cause any problems. At least I've never had any issues with it. So if you've got that going on, first things first, I would be cutting the water out pretty significantly. 2, I don't even know if I would try and fight it back, fight to get it back. Chances are I'd probably just go ahead and rake it out and seed into it again, unless it's the whole lawn or something. Then I would go in and then maybe try and to recover it. Again, I highly doubt, unless you were like 3 pounds per thousand of nitrogen, I highly doubt you over-fertilized it that bad. And so more than likely what's going on, when I see that taking place, 9 times out of 10, why I see that taking place is because simply too much seed was put out, which is a greater issue than typically over-fertilization is during that grow-in period, especially if the soil is that wet. I just find it hard to believe. Grace, what's going on, Grace? 3 weeks into my overseed, is it okay to put down Carbonex DIY? Sure, I'll wait a little bit. Through 3 weeks in, I'd say you'd be fine. You might need. I got my sunglasses right here, Telly. Trust me, I came prepared. What's up, APAP Canarf? Is half an ounce of prodiamine per 1,000 correct for Bermuda grass app in the fall, Panhandle of Florida? I don't know off the top of my head. So wait 1 second. Hang on. I remember. Let's see. I want to say it was 13 ounces, 15 ounces was somewhere around like 0.6, something like that. Maybe it was 16 ounces. So let's see, 16 divided by 43.5. That would be 0.36. So I would say, yeah, 0.5 that sounds perfectly fine. I think you could go at that rate, no problem. But again, double check that with the label because I am totally just going off my memory here. Breaking news, I'm finished my scheduled aeration and overseeding as of 6 this afternoon. Get it, Paul! Ha! 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 Okay, back to the show. Good for you, Paul, man. I know that's always a big relief as you move in that time frame. And it's only October 4th, so you're doing all right, good sir. Let's see. It doesn't have that sunken dart look, but whatever it is, it can be good. All summer long, I made it only to screw up. Now, I don't think you screwed anything. If anything, it may be too much seed. You should be all right. Cut the water back and see if it doesn't start to correct itself. Idea of an herbicide to burn off annual rye and Bermuda coming up from last year's overseed, so I can overseed perennial rye that won't affect germination. Being concerned too much, need to get it done. Really, you could go out with a low rate of glyphosate, say like 32 ounces per acre. I think that is going to be enough to get it done on your annual rye. I hope it would be. Obviously, it's going to knock your Bermuda back pretty good, which can definitely delay some things coming out of dormancy next year. So it's going to be real rough by the time you spray out your perennial rye in the spring. You're going to have to fertilize it very, very aggressively to get that bad boy to fill in all the way. But that would be just about the only way to do that that I could think of, unless you wanted to wick the annual rye with glyphosate. I don't know how much is coming up, but you could definitely wick it. So, yeah, that's really the only thing that is going to be seed safe for you in that type of scenario. Otherwise, you're going to have to go with the sulfonylurea, and that's never going to work with your perennial rye. And this is one of those things when people use annual rye and they come back and they're beating their head against the wall, that's one of the reasons why as well. Matt, how many ounces of GTMF to get that much chest hair? That's, let's see. Man, there's no telling how much I've end up intaking at some point, somehow, some way. It's, When is the best time to kill bent grass in a lawn? Also, is there a pre-emergent that will kill spotted spurge and purslane? As far as a pre-emergent to stop spotted spurge and purslane, yes. Isoxaben would probably be the most effective to go with. As long as you time it correctly. You miss your timing on that, and then you need to be applying it in combination with a post-emergent herbicide as well. As far as tackling bent grass in a lawn, good luck. It could fall be the best time. Yeah, I would say fall would be a good time. Late spring would probably be a good time too, before it really starts to harden off due to the summer. So that would kind of be those would be my recommendations there. And especially if you're going to be glyphosating it, make sure it's just very obvious where it is in the spring, and go ham on it. Matt, how soon would you regulate fescue in the spring? It depends on the rate of growth, right? So I'd say probably sometime around that third, fourth cut in the spring, like March time frame, somewhere around there. That's at least where I am. That's where I would start doing it, is March or April time frame, because really sometime around mid-April is when it comes on fire. So I want to make sure it is under regulation prior to that time frame. Hey, Matt, how long after overseeding do you cut your losses and realize you need to throw out some more seed? I'm 14 days in, and I think I'm seeing the effects of a lot of washout. Right then, I'd probably go ahead and feel comfortable getting it out. Why is one form of potassium better than the other? I understand one is considered the Cadillac of potassium, but don't know why. Because it all depends on, whenever you're choosing to apply a nutrient, you have to take into account the effects of what applying that nutrient actually is, right? So, for instance, when you're choosing a source, you have to take a couple things into consideration. One, what is your turf type? Number two, what is the temperature or time of year that you are applying? And number three, what are the side effects of choosing to go with that nutrient? And the reason why is, depending on the potassium source you choose, you can have a plethora of different side effects, right? So for instance, if you are, say, like you are in Atlanta, Georgia, and you're spraying potassium thiosulfate and you're treating your centipede lawns with it, well, it's kind of a win-lose situation there, because you're going out with something very caustic, a very caustic material. It is potassium, but it is a very caustic material that's very alkaline, that creates a pretty negative situation on the front end for the survival of the centipede. And then, over the next 6 months, that's going to be acidifying, or however long. I'm just throwing 6 months out there. It's probably not. Probably for the next 6 weeks, it would be acidifying. And then it can kind of be somewhat of a positive for your centipede. Or you're taking that same approach and you're applying it to tall fescue in again, we'll choose Atlanta, Georgia. You apply potassium thiosulfate. Again, very caustic, and say it's 80 degrees outside. Then your burn potential on that is going to be incredibly high. All of a sudden, it is really, really, really high. Then on the back end, that becomes acidifying. Well, typically soils in Atlanta are pretty acidic to begin with. So all of a sudden, you've got a soil pH of a 5.5 that's now a 4.9. Plus, you just salted the crap out of your fescue in the middle of approaching heat. Not a good thing to be doing. And then you can kind of take that and just extrapolate it out. Same thing with potassium chloride, the highest of salt indexes. You start applying that prior to the onset of heat. You're not doing anything for pre-stress conditioning wise, especially if you're facing a little bit of drought on the front end prior to your pre-stress conditioning. And it can just create a headache for you. And all of a sudden you start seeing a lackluster performance when you're supposed to be at peak performance. And then that lackluster performance extends into that period of stress and just sets you behind where you typically could be if you just would have shelled out the bucks for a potassium source that you could not use the side effects to your advantage. Matt, I've heard you discuss university research about how it takes specific amounts of time for a half-inch of water to infiltrate the ground effectively. Can I use multiple timer start times to help this? Yes, you can. And all of that would depend on, your soil composition, right? So if you have a good understanding of what your bulk density is, what your percolation rate, then you can definitely set multiple timers to make that more effective. T-Dot said, I seeded my neighbor's lawn 3 weeks ago and applied starter fertilizer and some biosolids at the time of seeding. Should I apply Fert again at 4-week mark, biostems? That is one of the ones where I would definitely be applying nitrogen after it. So 4 weeks after it, hell yes, I would be lighting it up. Do you need to apply biostimulants there? It depends on what type of biostimulant you're looking to apply. You can elicit many different physiological responses out of the plant right there. So it depends on what you want to apply in that scenario. Then by all means, yes, you certainly can. Are there any issues putting post-emergence down in early November as the new Kentucky bluegrass is slowing down? It might be weak going into dormancy. If not, what post-emergent should I use? No issues putting down post-emergent, and I would choose which post-emergent to use based on what weeds you see growing there. So most post-emergent broadleaf weed control. So primarily you're going to be dealing with broadleaf weeds, and broadleaf weed controls on Kentucky bluegrass is going to be pretty much non-existent that time of year as far as the amount of damage that can occur, as long as you're within label rate. So I would be choosing, something like 4-Speed XT, Speed Zone, Battleship 3, Escalade 2. Any of those would work just fine. No, it's not going to cause any negative effect for you. I'm acting like I've never been here before. Matt, what insecticide can I use to kill this invading lantern moth that we're seeing destroying trees, specifically arborvitae? So from what I understand, most people are having most success with safari. Dinotefuran is a very fast way to knock those down. So there you go, Dinotefuran. Put down X-Star a week ago, and a couple days later, we had a severe downpour. All my grass is on hills. How much washed out? Should I apply a light amount of starter? That's a good question. I do not know the answer to that. It's impossible to tell. If it looks like everything is responding well, then I wouldn't worry about going out with anything. If it looks like it's not responding well, then I would get out there and do something. So this is where you're going to have to lean on your experience a little bit there and see how it's responding, and then make the appropriate application necessary. Otherwise, I would just totally be guessing if I told you, for sure, 100% of it is gone. I don't know that. It may not be. I've seen weirder things happen, so I don't feel comfortable telling you that, and I don't feel comfortable giving an opinion in this type of scenarios. It's totally a judgment call, and I don't want to bear that burden of responsibility. I should have mentioned it's the established grass that's taking the beating. It's been mid to upper 60s during the day and highs 40s, lows 50 at night. I thought I was out of the fungicide window. Yeah, so chances are you're experiencing melting out in that type of scenario. And truth be told, is it going to hurt your grass? No, it's going to cause a little bit of discoloration, but it's probably not going to kill anything. So I don't know if I would worry about it too much. I surely probably would not be applying a fungicide. I would wait till you get through your wet rain period and right now too, like I know here this morning, humidity was 100%. So, there you go. Robert, you're going to be fine. I wouldn't sweat it. I don't think you're going to lose everything. I would check and make sure you don't have grubs. Pull up and make sure you don't see any grubs there. So and then you should be good. That should be all you need to check out. Matt, you helped a lot with a few questions I had related to carbon nitrogen issues in an area where a tree once was. One more. I read an article, and I'm happy to send it to you in a DM, suggested that nitrogen in these conditions is just temporarily tied up in the bodies of soil bacteria as their populations surge while they are working to break down the wood. The article it jumped down. Went on to say that once decomposition is complete, the nitrogen will be released into the soil. Is this true? Is this something to be concerned about? Yes, that is true. Why it won't be something to be concerned about is because it's not going to be 1-to-1, where if you put in 3 pounds of nitrogen, you're going to get 3 pounds of nitrogen on the back end. Some of that is going to be lost to denitrification, to volatilization, and as a general rule of thumb, you can expect about 60% of the nitrogen you apply is going to be lost atmospherically or through leaching, runoff, or utilization even by the bacteria in this type of scenario. So, no, I would. It is true, and while it will recycle to a point, you're not going to get 100% recycle on it. Then the second piece, as it is re-released, it's not going to be purely in ammoniacal or nitrate form. Chances are it's going to be in the form of organic matter, and then you have to wait another period of time for it to be fully released, mineralized, and then plant available. So I think that's actually where they're going with it, is that it's going to be deposited into the organic matter, which will eventually release. And it's not all going to happen at one time. It may release over a year. It may release over 3 years kind of scenario. What's up, Jeremy Wilson? Just fertilized with 1608 1 week ago. Floor tam has bright yellow areas and bleached light green, almost white areas. Any ideas? Thanks. 11% was ammoniacal in. This is kind of interesting. I've had other people talking to me about floor tam, and after they fertilize, it's causing a yellowing effect, and I don't know specifically what that is. So I'm going to do a little bit of research on that and see what we can figure out, because you are not the only person that has recently approached me about that. I wonder, and the other one too was specifically in shady areas that was taking place. So I don't know what's going on there, but something is definitely taking place. I have a 15-gallon sprayer. I can spray about 15,000 square feet accurately. How much tenacity should I use per tank per 15,000 during seed? Man, check your labels. It'll be right there on it. Rookie question. I've never done it this way, so I don't know. I'm going to have some spots to fix, but don't want to split seed again. Does broadcasting seed and just top dressing with compost work? In fact, Robert, I'll give you a little secret. You can just broadcast seed and not do any top dressing at all, and it'll work. It's amazing. Seed can germinate in a paper towel. If it can germinate in a paper towel or in a truck bed or in the crack of a driveway or in the crack of a sidewalk, it'll germinate in a bare spot too. You're good. Don't worry about it. It's a secret, Robert. This is between me and you, brother. It's between me and you. Do you have a rule of thumb on nitrogen totals for first season of growing for tall fescue Kentucky bluegrass renovation? Try not to get too heavy-handed using AMS and triple 20 this late in the season. As a general rule of thumb, somewhere around 2 pounds is about what I try to target. And it depends on what I went with earlier in the season versus where I am now, kind of thing too. But if I'm doing a complete and total reno like that, somewhere around 2 pounds is about where I try to stay. Tall fescue transition zone, some centipede. Need to hit wild violet, but have some exposed mulberry pecan tree roots. If I smoke the centipede, I'll live. Change up or triclopyr? Triclopyr. In fact, all the studies regarding wild violets that I know, triclopyr alone works better than multiple AIs combined together for it. So I would use triclopyr. Applying cytokinin, cytogrow to the lawn, pros, cons, scam. So here's the thing. You have to understand that with great power comes great responsibility. Cytokinins are extremely powerful, and they can elicit a significant amount of growth in a very short period of time. In fact, to the point of even causing phytotoxicity because it has become overly hormonally stimulated. So the point I want to put you at is this, is that yes, cytokinins do play a pivotal role in plant function, specifically as a growth regulator. It is a hormone, right? So a lot like us taking testosterone, for instance, to act as a growth regulator for the human body. And growth regulator meaning not necessarily slowing down, but speeding up the rate of growth. Cytokinins are going to be doing the same thing, speeding up the rate of growth. And so with the pros of that is that, you know, in specific scenarios like recovery scenarios or something, or high traffic areas that you're trying to get to fill back in, it's a tool in the toolbox you can use very sparingly. The flip side is that if you have to mow the damn thing, it's likely going to be pretty aggressive as far as the rate of growth it ends up generating, and make that piece of it come back to haunt you if you do not have the ability to stay on a very strict schedule. Then the second piece of it too, if it is, you may not be looking for that kind of top growth, especially if you're coming out of a high traffic scenario, right? Where you're trying to minimize the amount of traffic on that area, and you don't need to be mowing it all that often. In fact, you're trying to mow it as little as frequently so it can recover. In that instance, it can come back to bite you. I have used it, and I can't tell you how many gallons I've used over the years, and I've never found a place to, every time I ended up with it, it was in effect given to me and was like, just do something with it. And so I would always find a place for it on a football field or something like that. I'd use a little bit of it in residential turf, and it just was never really help. I never really found the appropriate place for it. I'll put it that way. And here's the other thing. If you do not have an appropriate NPK program in place, it ain't going to help you. I'll tell you that right now. You'll be beating your head against the wall. The only way you're going to be able to capitalize on that is if, at minimum, you have an appropriate NPK program in place. Is water-insoluble nitrogen okay for St. Augustine grass? Yes, if you're okay with your nitrogen being slowly available. That's what that means. Insoluble nitrogen means slowly available. It's either going to become soluble slowly over time, just through the presence of water. It's going to slowly break down through microbial mineralization and become available slowly over time. It's not just going to dissolve in water and then the plant can suck it up as water from the soil. It's going to have to go through some sort of reactive process in order to become plant available. T-Dot, so at the 4-week mark, hit the new lawn with straight ammonium sulfate, or should I hit it with starter fertilizer again? Also thinking of hitting it with sea kelp and humic for biostems. Here's the thing. I have no idea where you're at on your soil test. So you still have a fair amount of growing season left. So I would probably be at minimum applying NP and K in this scenario, and I don't know where you are. I don't know how much longer you have left in your growing season. I don't know your soil test, so I'm not going to give you an answer there. It all depends on where you are. If you're in the transition zone like me, I would definitely be applying some more potassium in that scenario if I hadn't been applying heavy rates of it earlier. But if you're loaded on potassium and you feel like you're loaded on your phosphorus based on your initial starter fertilizer, then you could go straight ammonium sulfate. But again, I have no idea what you applied up to then, so it's going to be hard for me to make a recommendation on it now. Matt, my soil test shows a low CEC down to 3.2 in some places, as well as low organic matter. Would this be a situation where humic may actually be helpful? Could be, yeah. There's definitely a time and place for it, and in that scenario, and trying to use it as a tool to retain nutrients as you apply it, because of your low CEC, you can definitely try it there. Again, just pay attention to your rates there. Applying it at 3 ounces per 1,000, once or twice a month probably ain't going to get it for you, though. Oh, man, I jumped down again. There we are. Is Carbon X a good choice for feeding a month-old grass? I use a starter for it when I seeded, probably about 1 week from now. Thoughts, or get something else? Thanks. You can do that. Again, kind of back to the previous question there. I have no idea what you've done prior to then, so it's going to be hard for me to say. If you have adequate potassium, yes, it's going to be a good fit for you. Is it safe to do that? Yeah, it's totally safe. It's not going to hurt anything. But again, I have no idea what took place before, so it's going to be hard for me to make a recommendation now on what exactly to go out with. I put down sedge hammer, and it's not touching nut sedge, but it's killing my Kalinga. Why? I have no idea. Chances are, just hearing that, I would expect the vice versa to take place, where sedge hammer doesn't work well on Kalinga, but is doing fine on your nut sedge. So my initial response, I don't know how long it's been since you made your last application. I would say at minimum, give it 3 weeks before you start to see action on your traditional sedge. It's just slow to come on, especially now that it's been cold. I would expect at least 4 weeks before it really starts to show some good action there. And you may be seeing a little bit of discoloration on your Kalinga, but I doubt you're going to get a full kill on your Kalinga anyway. So, yeah, there you go. True Hunter said I had the opposite problem. I was using this hammer and it won't kill nut sedge, but then and it wouldn't kill nut, but then I certainly realized I was actually trying to get rid of Kalinga. There you go. But Lawn Care Monster, do not put certainty on your grass type because it will kill it. How do you tell the difference between Kalinga and nut sedge? Nut sedge is going to be growing upright, normally has like triangular stem, a single stem with leaves coming off of that single stem. Kalinga is going to be a bunch type, more like a piece of Poa annua or something like that. Applying Triad with cue ball at a ½ ounce a gallon in central Iowa for the last month to try and knock out yellow nut sedge and crabgrass. Is this an effective mixture for this time of year? No. Triad and cue ball do nothing for yellow nut sedge. For crabgrass at a ½ ounce per gallon, I don't know the cue ball label. Let me look it up real quick. Cue ball herbicide label. That's the SDS labels. So, you have 1.5 pounds per gallon. So I believe the use rate for this is 64 ounces per 1,000 square feet. Let me confirm that. At 4 pints of this product per acre. So 1 or 2 may not provide complete control. Biotypes have shown very control split application do not reapply. Change your hours a different mode of action. Okay, so yeah, you're going to have to apply 1.5 ounces of product per acre in order to get control. A half ounce is not going to be effective for you on any crabgrass whatsoever. And it also, neither of those active ingredients are effective on nut sedge, so it's not going to do anything for that either. Oh, there we go. So floor tam, shady area under 2 trees. I'm not sure. We'll have to check on that web education. That's a tricky one. I'm not sure what's going on there. Ground thistle, poison ivy, herbicide, and soap doesn't kill it. Huh? Mama wants to know what you would use. Ground thistle. What is this? I know it's some kind of ground. Some kind of thistle, but. And what was it? Poison ivy, herbicide, and soap doesn't kill it. Huh? It should. So normally for this type of product, I'll kind of give you two different options here. I would, you could do a 3-way and simazine. You could do a 3-way and sulfentrazone would be effective. You could do probably even Celsius would do a fair job of controlling it. You definitely want to do a 2,4-D. It looks like is going to be good. 2,4-D and dicamba would be good. I got here a triclopyr and 2,4-D, but I know you have Bermuda grass, so I would not be doing that as well. So yeah, dicamba, 2,4-D, that and the wheelhouse should knock it out. I've got, sorry, I'm looking at this chart and it's sideways and I'm trying to make notes of it here. Yeah, you should be good. You should be good with that. If it's not working, I don't know, something's off. Your rate may be off on your poison ivy herbicide. I don't know what your poison ivy herbicide is, but, that's kind of my take on it. I just started spoon feeding with my new Reno at 1/4 pound in each week with a 12-12 after applying X-Star as seeding. Am I wasting my time or should I just start down 0.75 pounds per in or keep spoon feeding? Aaron, it's totally up to you. You're going to get the same result. You're in a residential lawn, so it's, you're not trying to establish this on USGA sand and have, $100,000 investment riding on it. So, it's totally up to you. If you want to put it down with 1/4 pound in each week and you feel like doing the work each week, totally, that's fine. Or if you want to cut it down into as few applications as possible and put down 3/4 pound in and maybe one more before it goes dormant. And if you get an extended long fall or moderate winter, then throw down another 3/4 pound in and then call it good. So it's all depends on how much time you want to invest in it because you'll get the same result either way. Why then am I garden weaseling, slit seeding, aerating, et cetera, For me, at least, the plants have to be aligned to get good germination. I think I tried too hard. Robert, I think you're overthinking it, sir. And that's what I see out of 900,000. That's what I see 9 times out of 10 is just people way overthinking it. And they feel like if I don't do it this way, it's impossible to get the results I'm going after. And I'd say the advantage I have is that I had to come at it from the standpoint of unengineering things, right? So because when you are trying to be profitable, you have to figure out how little can I do to get the same overall comprehensive result, right? Hey, Matt, big fan from Toronto, Canada. Well, thank you for tuning in, Paolo. I appreciate it, good sir. We've got zero selection as far as herbicides go. I can't even locate a methylated seed oil. Any suggestions on where I can buy? Will grocery store stuff work? Man, I have no idea what the laws are in Canada. Man, I just have no idea. I have no idea. And in fact, you're the only person I know from Toronto. So I have no experience in the bank for me to reach out, to reach into and figure it out. I have no idea. I apologize. All right, let's see here. Whoa, what is going on? Y'all quit it. Quit it. Jason Traylor, quit it. Hey, dog. I'm in Northern California, Sacramento. I can't remember your original question, but I think you're going to be okay. Temp's still in the 90s. T-Dot, what was your... Oh, yeah, at the 4-week mark, hit the lawn with ammonium starter. Should have hit it with starter fertilizer again. So pick your poison. You're going to be fine either way. It's just grass. Let me see. Install a brand new shed at my house today. Any recommendations for premium flame retardant coatings? No, you have to remember my experience on this, David, tends to be on the other side of things, where I would prefer to not install a brand new shed, but acquire an old shed and then burn it down. So this is way out of my wheelhouse. You're going to have to talk to somebody else who has someone who knows how to handle it the way you're talking about, because I do that ass backwards. Hello, I glyphosated my quackgrass infested lawn. How can I make any remaining rhizomes sprout up to kill them off again? You can fertilize it, would be one way. The other way would be patience, is kind of a virtue in that scenario. But you definitely can fertilize it to try and get them to push up. It would be considered part of that whole fallowing process. What do you think about using Spectacle on tall fescue to kill Poa annua? Spectacle will kill tall fescue, so it will end up working against you, where you'll have a completely barren lawn. Would you talk to me about 3 pounds per thousand of CX and Stress X as my next app? Went to the season deficient in N and K and made 3 apps of Carbonex, 2 of X Green, and 2 of Stress X this season. Bag rate of upstate New York. Let's see. Went into the season with it, and it made 2 of Stress. Okay, so if you applied all that, you can certainly apply Carbonex, no problem. You would be totally fine. You got 2 apps of Stress X in, and you're gonna be good, because that is going to give you roughly 1.5 pounds of K plus 2 pounds of K as you start moving into your X Green applications that you made there. Over 2 pounds of K, you're actually 2.25. So yeah, you're good to go. You can apply Carbonex. That gives you leeway to get all the way up to 4 pounds in, and you will be gravy train. What's up, Face Punch? It's Matt, old buddy. Do you do any food plots or deer hunting? How would you prepare food plots? I know it's kind of off topic. Just wondering how you would seed and feed in the woods. This is a great question, because for whatever reason, my son is getting into archery, and it's got me pulling out the bow, and in fact, this weekend, while it's still bow season, we went ahead and went deer hunting. By the way, if anybody is a hardcore bow hunter out there, shoot me an email. I'm trying to figure some shit. I'm trying to figure some stuff out here. I have no idea what I'm doing. I come from a family of hunters. I've never been a hunter. I've never had time to do this, but there's something about waking up at 4 a.m. and then go sitting out in the woods and listening to the coyotes and stuff run around you. Let me tell you right now, I'm glad I brought my 10 millimeter as a sidearm just in case, and I'm glad I brought it, because boy, we had my son had actually fell asleep next to me, and I heard a coyote off in the distance doing some yipping and yapping, and I think they were actually chasing the deer, and it wasn't long until he actually came up on the back side of me, and I didn't see him until we both made eye contact, and he took off running, and I reached for the sidearm in case I had to double tap somebody there. But anyway, How would I do things? I've got 1,000,001 different ideas to do it. Send me an email and let's kind of talk through it. It depends on where you are is how I would approach this. I've been reading a lot about it. My buddy Chris Helms got me starting down this wormhole a while back, and kind of coming up with some different ideas and different things. So anyway, shoot me an email and let's kind of talk about that offline. I'll tell you the big things that would be in my repertoire is definitely going to be corn, and the other piece of it too would be clover, would be another big one as well too. And I got something from my buddy too. And I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it publicly. So for the time being, we'll talk about it offline. Shoot me an email, thegrassfactor@gmail.com. Need to kill what I think are ash trees, about 4 to 6 inches trunks at the base. If I drill holes and put glye in there, will that be sufficient to kill them and keep them from coming back next year? It depends. The hack and squirt method does work. I don't know how much you would have to do it. The other thing you can do, though, if you have time on your side, is you can always girdle it as well, where you cut off, say an inch, including the bark, and an inch into the tree in a perfect circle around the outside to make sure you cut out all the vascular tissue of the tree, and eventually it's going to fail, and because it cannot transport any nutrients or liquid or water or whatever. That you completely put a hole in the vascular tissue of the entirety of the tree. It's going to die. It'd be like cutting every one of your veins in your body. You're going to bleed out. You're going to die. So same thing happens. It just happens slowly. Would a 4-way like Momentum 4-score board be more effective in controlling crabgrass and nutsedge right now in Iowa? Okay, let's look up Momentum 4-score label. I have no idea what the active ingredients in this are, so let's see. Fluroxapyr, tricapyr, sulfentrazone, and 2,4-D. There's nothing about this product that will... Okay, and the rate of sulfentrazone in this is 0.87%. Do I have a pounds per acre? Yes, 0.078 pounds per gallon. So let me tell you right now, this is not going to be effective on nutsedge. It may turn it yellow, but it's not going to be effective on nutsedge at all, and it will not control crabgrass at all. There's nothing about these active ingredients that really work on either of those at the rates that are in this product. So no, that is not a good choice of herbicides to go out with. Is a monostand lawn more difficult to maintain than a mix? I bought straight Midnight Kentucky Bluegrass for renovation before I considered it. Yes, because you have to remember that if you have one problem on that, it is one problem that targets whatever genetic deficiency Midnight Kentucky Bluegrass has. It can take out the entirety of the lawn relatively instantly, right? Because there's nothing genetically about that plant that's going to be able to handle whatever that one thing is, assuming it attacks your lawn and assuming you know what that is. I don't know enough about Midnight Kentucky Bluegrass to tell you what it is, but we'll say whatever it is. Maybe it's Pythium blight, for instance, and this is totally hypothetical here. That's not what I'm saying it is. And you can go to the NTEP trials and figure out what it is based on what it scored poorly in. But you could say it's Pythium blight. Well, if you do have a year that is high pressure Pythium blight and you are not on a preventative Pythium program, then the chances of it knocking out your whole lawn is high, very high. Matt burns down sheds. Yes, it does. Rest in peace, Matt Shed. Are Spike Ninja Star aerators worthwhile in mostly clay soil? No. If foliar feeding is one form of nitrogen preferred over the other, no. It all depends on what active ingredient you are that you need to use based on your soil conditions. So it doesn't matter how you get it down. It's making sure you choose the right one to get down first and foremost. So, you can however you need to get it done is how you need to get it done. But make sure you are choosing the appropriate nitrogen source. Who's this? Cameron Haynes. Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of Cameron Haynes. I know he and Rogan get out there and do some stuff. When would you stop fertilizing in Arkansas and Zoysia? Probably now, to be honest. By the way, Woo Pig Suey, bringing the thunder, the hammer, dropping the hammer on Mississippi State. And I hope my cousin's not listening, because good job, Brad. You love to see it. You love to see it. Does the carbonated biochar disperse like the WDG products from Anderson's? No, the WDG products in Anderson's are going to be much faster. They use a combination of an oxide to force everything kind of apart from one another, and they have a patent on that product, so you cannot replicate that. Now, what I can say is that when it does break down, it does break into the same size as the Anderson's products, because when we mill the product before we granulate it, we are milling it down to extremely tiny particle size. So 300 mesh is not outside of the realm of normal for us, and 300 mesh is finer than the flour, or as fine as the flour you would get, or powdered sugar you would get from the store. So incredibly fine particle size. And boy, you should see the equipment that is used to grind that down. In fact, who asked that question? Mr. Jurich. I did a whole video on Exoil where I talk about our manufacturing process and everything in great detail. So if you wanna look that up, you can, and it will answer a lot of the questions you probably have about it and show you how we manufacture that product. What's up, Breeze Lawn? How are you? Yeah, I'm not just a bleeding diehard Arkansas fan here, but growing up in my house, it was Notre Dame football, UT football, and Arkansas football. So you gotta remember your roots. You gotta remember where you came from. Come on, Arkansas's back, UT's back. Oh man, it's the '90s all over again. Now, if Oklahoma and Nebraska were good, boy, we would be in. Fact or myth? Pine needles kill turf. That's a myth, total myth. In fact, I could take you to South Carolina right now and show you all kinds of beautiful grass growing underneath pine trees with plenty of pine needles in it. It is a total old wives' tale. Oh, it's so acidic, it acidifies the soil, and it's going to be real nasty, and it's going to cause you a hard time, and it'll never do it. You got to lime it. Go get your lime. Get out there and lime it and put down some more lime, and then after you get done with that, get you a little bit more lime, and it's going to help with all the acidity in the pine needles. And then after that, you get down and put down a little bit more lime, it's going to help with the acidity in the pine needles. And what ends up happening is that nothing really ends up happening, and then everyone's kind of pointing at one another as far as why things ended up the way they do. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I'm going to go put the kids to bed. I got to go to the lab. Look, here they are right here. I got to go to the lab, check on the different experiments we've got going on. I'll be back tomorrow. Is Pick the Doc's Brain. I'm going to have Ray, the Green Doc of Hawaii. The Green Doc of Hawaii is going to be on. So if you got questions for that, you want us to dive, we'll dive deep, nitty gritty, dirty, deep into whatever question, whatever topic you may have. So you can send those over to thegrassfactor@gmail.com. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow, 4 p.m. Zaya!